Hey guys, welcome back. It's Josh with the Financial Advisor Car Guy. This week we're going to do a little maintenance on the Challenger. As you know, I do have the car up for sale. One of the things that the car needs, and really it's the only thing the car needs, are new front shocks. So I went ahead and ordered them, and I was including them in the sale of the car. But because the car's not really selling, I'm continuing to drive it. I want it to be a little more comfortable. So I'm going to go ahead and replace those shocks, and that's what we're going to do in this episode. Now, the other thing we're going to do at the same time, because we're going to be in there, is I'm going to put brand new brakes on the front end as well. So new rotors and new pads. And I'm also going to paint the calipers just for a visual upgrade, again, while I'm in there. So that's what we're doing tonight. I'm going to go ahead and get going on the project, and I'll keep you posted as we go. So what we have here is one of the factory shocks. This is the driver's side front shock. And as you can see, it is fully removed from the vehicle. So I'm going to get down here and I'm going to show you kind of the process here. It's not really a very complex mechanism to get apart. You know, basically there's, I think, 3 bolts, 6 if you count the 3 top on the strut itself. But basically, let me flip that camera around and I'll show you what we had to do here. So if you're looking at the assembly here, basically there's this sway bar link, upper sway bar link that would attach here on the new shock. And then you've got your lower mounting bolt, which is right here. Sorry, kind of a bad angle, but right there, you can kind of see it there. And then the other piece you've got to do is you've got to release this knuckle here. And so this bolt just backs out. I have a ball joint puller fork here, and you kind of stick that in there, pry, and it just pops off. And then you loosen the nut, and this whole assembly falls down. And then from up there, you remove the 3 nuts, and the entire assembly comes out in one piece, like you see here. So I'm gonna go ahead and compress the spring, put it on the new shock, and proceed forward. So one thing I want to remind you guys is how dangerous spring compressors are. And there's a very wrong way to use these things. And so I kind of wanted to show you what I did to A, not get hurt, but B, get it done as quickly as possible. So using an impact wrench is going to be the best tool for the job. As you can see here, we've got the lowering compressor springs, or the compressors here, top and bottom. And you want to space those opposite one another around the spring. Then what you want to do is tighten down the nut on the end equally. So, you know, like 10 seconds on each one, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, until the resistance is lifted. You'll know the resistance is lifted when the inner cylinder will spin. You can kind of see the play here. I can turn this, and I can turn it a lot more. So the pressure has been relieved. I would say once that happens, then you focus yourself on this top nut. Sorry, I'm not angling it very well. But that top nut, once that comes off, you slide the entire thing off and then reinstall on the new shock. So you'll see what that looks like here in just a second. As you can see, the nut is loose and the tension is off the spring because of those compressors. Now, the way I did that, it's a little bit tricky because here, I'll slide this thing the rest of the way off. You'll see that this is actually a bit. It's the size, let's see, I've got my bit on my drill. It's a 5/16 head there. And then this nut is all the way down tight down here, right? So what I did was I put my 18mm shorty on there to hold that nut in place, and then used my impact and put it on this, and brought the nut straight up and out. So it worked really, really well. I'm probably not explaining it all that excellent, but it worked. And the point is, now, as you can see, this part lifts off, and there's the old shock. Here is the new shock all reassembled. That took literally 3 minutes. And now that it's reassembled, it'll go back up in the way it came out, just opposite. But here you can see the new bolt. The new nut is threaded down the shaft. And we did have to line everything back up so that it does slide right back in correctly. And then these 3 mounting points all come up through the shock towers the way they're supposed to. And then obviously you've got to remember which side the holes come on and whatnot for reassembly. But yeah, it came together really quick. And again, utilizing the impact wrench is a lifesaver. It really saves your hands, your arms, your knuckles, all those things. and back together it is. So the new strut is in there, or the new shock. I want to call it a strut all the time, but it's really not. The entire assembly with the spring and the shock is considered a strut, but I just replaced the stock shock. I didn't go with anything aftermarket up front. I'm kind of regretting it because if you guys remember, I did lower the back end of this car, and I didn't want to lower the front any because we live in a neighborhood with some pretty high curbs, and I have to go in and out of an alley, and my front valance is like less than an inch away from scraping as it is. And so to me, it just didn't make sense to lower the front of the car. Plus, I didn't like the rake that it had from the factory. And so I was able to settle that out. But now that the front has brand new shocks, yeah, I am a little bit concerned that it's going to look like a reverse rake where the back is lower than the front. So I'm gonna have to let it settle in and see what happens, but there we have it. The shocks are replaced. At the beginning of the video, I mentioned I'm also gonna go ahead and do the brakes and paint the calipers while I'm at it, since I'm right in here already. When I got into it a little deeper, turns out I can't get those caliper bolts off. They are incredibly tight. I put my impact wrench on there, they won't budge. I use my torque wrench, they won't budge. I use a breaker bar, they won't budge. So with that said, I'm not gonna be able to change the rotors. Further inspection does show that I don't know that the rotors need to be replaced just yet. They actually look a lot better than I thought. I am gonna replace the pads because they've got some life, but they're a little nicked and chipped, and they don't have a ton of life left, and they don't look like they're wearing evenly. So I am gonna go ahead and replace those. And I'm also gonna go ahead and paint these calipers while I'm in here. So as you can see, I've kind of masked off what I don't want paint to get on, especially since I'm gonna try to reuse these calipers, or I'm sorry, these rotors. I'm gonna go ahead and just shoot these. I have a caliper paint. This was, I don't know, $9 at AutoZone. And the reviews online are great. They're it's a high temp paint designed for drums and rotors. And we'll see what it looks like here in just a second. All right, so we're getting the paint on the calipers, and it's a little bit darker than I thought. If you guys remember, the racing stripes on the car actually are pretty close to this painter's tape. These are quite a bit darker, and it's a little frustrating because on the can, it looks actually pretty light and bright, but unfortunately, no, it's coming out pretty dark. So one thing, I don't have it sitting here in front of me, but one thing you're gonna wanna do if you're gonna paint your calipers is take a wire brush and scrub the heck out of these things. I had a ton of brake dust come off these things. And the other thing you're gonna wanna do is once you've scrubbed them with that wire brush, take some brake clean and spray it, and that will help break up and get off all of the residual garbage and junk and brake dust that sticks to these things before you paint them. And it does help the paint go on a lot smoother. It's gonna help give it a smoother finish. It's gonna stick a lot better. You're not gonna have weird bubbling and grease coming through the paint. And so obviously the more time you do on the prep, the better it's gonna turn out. I could have taped off all this stuff up here, but instead I just put a piece of cardboard and I moved the cardboard where I was shooting so that you can see the cardboard. So that way I'm not getting overspray all over my brand new shock, all over the spring, all over everything back there. So I am, waiting for it to dry. I've put about 3 coats on so far. I am pretty happy with the color. I think it looks nice. It's gonna look great behind those silver wheels. And so I will go ahead and let this dry. I'll probably give it another coat or 2 and then wrap it up and show you guys the finished results. So the project is now complete. The job is done. The shocks have been swapped out, as have the brake pads, and the calipers are painted. It's dark out now, as you can see through these windows, and so I can't really get a good picture of the calipers being all done, but I did take a still picture before I reinstalled the wheels, so I'm gonna insert that here. And let me know what you think. I think the car came together really nicely. I think that these were the last couple of maintenance things that I needed to do to the car to really make it perfect. It really is. It needs nothing. It is a turnkey car. The only fault with it now is that it has a branded title. So that reconstructed title means a lot to a lot of people. I've had over 40 people contact me about the car and want it, or at least not, I shouldn't say want it, but inquire about it and ask questions and, throw me an offer or a trade offer or whatever it is. And either they've lowballed the heck out of it, or they've traded or offered to trade things that I have no interest in. I don't really need a boat. I don't really need a motorcycle. I don't really need a different pickup. And so, I'm trying to stress to these people that I don't really have to sell it. Literally, the only reason I want to is so that I can take that money and dump it in the stock market while the market's down. So, we talked about that in a prior episode, repositioning your assets. That's all I want to do here. I really like the car and I'm going to continue to drive it. As a matter of fact, it's the most economical car I own right now. My truck, my R8, my Mustang, none of them get great mileage. So the Challenger, doesn't get great mileage either, but it is better than the other three. So that's the car I've actually been driving every day, and I'll continue to do so until it sells. But in the meantime, I'm really pleased with it. I'd love to hear your feedback. What do you think I should do to the car if there's anything left? Again, much beyond that, I think we're done. I think I'm just gonna drive the car till it sells. I don't think I'm gonna do anything more to it. I did just get an oil change last weekend, so even that's done. Yeah, it's in great shape right now. So that's all. But like always, please like, subscribe, share, comment down below, ring the notification bell, and always remember, may every investment you make be a good one. Till next time.